All right, guys, I'm sitting here today with someone who has literally never been on the show before. And as far as I know, not even in this house before. Have you been in here before?
Not in this room like this. No.
Not in this room like this. And this is, we're in the famous Blue House right off the square.
That's right.
And there's a lot of construction going on behind us. But we're not here to talk about construction. We're not here to talk about the house. We're here to talk about you and what you have going on. This is Dorothy Allan, and Dorothy is actually running for president of the United States. No, I'm just kidding. She's not running for president, but you are running for city council. Is that right?
I am. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So talk to me. How's everything going so far?
Actually, it's going really well. It is. It's like having a second job.
Right.
I'm telling you, just putting out signs isn't going to do it. I have talked to several hundred people. I wake up early, as you know. I start making my list of people I'm going to call and contact. And then you've got to work the real estate in there.
Right. Because that's your normal job.
That's my normal job. And,
right.
It's time is of the essence.
Absolutely.
And then you go from that out to going out and seeing people in town. I mean, I spend a lot of time downtown. I mean,
Right.
I moved downtown purposely so that I could spend more time downtown.
Good. So you feel like everything's going pretty good so far.
I do. Yep.
Other than it's just it's a huge time commitment, of course.
It is.
And there's a lot of things that you have to do. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but there's a lot of like laws, regulations, and things like that you have to actually follow.
Right.
And just staying sometimes within the boundaries of what's legal can be its own separate job. Like, you almost need someone to help you in order to do all that stuff. It's a lot. And we have 5 weeks or so until early voting starts. Is that right?
Oh, is it 5? It's April 22nd.
It's
coming.
It's coming up. It's coming up pretty
Well, listen,
soon.
it always gets real right after spring break.
Yeah,
right?
This is true. And we're in spring break right now as we're recording this.
That's
so
right.
people could be watching this at any time, but we're actually in spring break right now. And you know how this has kind of been going. I've got, I had the mayor come on just in general because he wanted to. He said he wanted to come on and complain about how bad elections are, like how not fun they are. And then I've had, you, and you're running against Philip Ferguson. Mm-hmm. And so he's already been in. And then there's another seat that's actually uncontested right now, and that's Brandon Grumbles.
Right.
He's actually already been in, but nobody's podcast has been released yet. So what I'm going to do is release those all at the same time in the spirit of fairness. That way somebody doesn't listen to it and go, oh, I could say this and it's going to be better. You can't do that stuff. Right. Now, we have had in this town our fair share of, like the infighting and people with agendas. And, I've addressed that myself very, very clearly with this podcast. And we're not going to try and get into any of the negative stuff. In fact, one of the things that I'm kind of very notorious for saying right now is that I'm over all that. I'm
Absolutely.
done with it.
We don't have time.
We don't. We literally don't. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's talk a little bit more about you and your race and stuff like that, because people want to know, why did you do this? Why did you decide to hop into this race?
Great question. I moved here in 2017, and I have been actively involved in, a number of things in the city. I worked with the EDC. I think when I came here, it took me 3 months to actually come down to the square, first of all. You get your kids all set up and whatnot. And I came down to the square and I went, wow, what a gem. And I grew up in a town that is, it's a beautiful little hamlet, like 3 months of the year when it's warm. It's got a river running through it. It's as old, if not older. And the city there did such a good job at bringing that city along. So I've lived through it. I didn't do it, but I see the vision. And when I saw the master plan after the EDC did that, I went, oh, I can execute against that. But I had to have a real estate license to do it. I mean, in order to actually make money, right? I am a retail strategist. I got paid handsomely by the hour to do it, but my rate was not going to make it down here. So you got to make money somehow, right?
So you talk about your previous employment.
Yeah.
And what exactly did you do?
Oh, well, I tell you what, I've been in business for 30 years. I actually grew up in the early years. The real early years was in direct mail. I worked for a number of startup organizations. I worked for a catalog company that did nothing but aggregate businesses. So, I mean, we bought 17 businesses in 1 year. We put them all down in Nashville, right next to the FedEx. So I was not only doing product development, business development, category development, finding catalogs to purchase, I was also on the team, the acquisition team. And my job was to get those trucks loaded, bring them into a warehouse, and just put them into the catalog system. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of detail. And this was long before we had the tools that we have. Excel was available, but just databases were starting to come in and of themselves.
Right. So
it was a lot of work, a lot of detail you had to take care of. And I left that and I went into the retail world. I'm not one to jump within an industry. I figure once you've done it, might as well just move on and try something else. So I took all that learning and understanding, and that's where I really got introduced to data, making decisions using data, just that whole realm. So I went into the retail space, and at that time, I was working for a company that does point of purchase, kind of boring shelves, and they charged me with turning a commodity into a consultative sale. And the only way you can do that is with data. You have to have some measurement of success or not. And I bumped into a group of people in Ohio, and they were using advanced analytics to rearrange grocery stores, convenience stores, all types of formats. And I was like, wow, that is incredible. It was just a ton of data in a lot of modeling, simulation. And so we did actually a convenience store in, I think it was Indiana. And the guy said to us, he said, listen, I love this idea. Just so cool. He said, but don't worry about, increasing the soda. You're never going to do that. Well, I said, well, why is that? He said, I sell more Coke than any average McDonald's. And I'm thinking, really? That's incredible. Well, we kept it in the model. And at the end of the day, we rearranged his store. We took a lot of product out that wasn't moving. We got rid of dead inventory, and his sales increased by double digits, and his soda sales went through the roof. And he was like, holy moly, I didn't think I could sell that much more soda.
Nice.
But it's just, how categories work together to strengthen a sale was part of that. And
so like putting like the salty chips next to the drinks, that kind of thing, or help the person.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised at how many sweet things are purchased.
Really?
With the drink. Yeah, that's
okay.
The learning that you get. You go, are you kidding me? Candy bars? I thought for sure it was going to be Frito-Lay.
Right.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Wow.
So the way when you model something, you use their sales, their prior sales. Usually you have to have 2 years of data, which they all have. And when you're modeling it, you want to simulate it to the point where you get to within 95 to 98% of their last year. And then you can actually put different attributes into the model. And you have a very, very strong direction. Nothing's ever 100%.
Right.
But, you answer questions that you would have never thought to ask.
Very interesting.
And I've had conversations with Robert, the city manager, about doing something similar for the city. All of this technology has revolved around large businesses for either major cost reductions or incredible revenue growth, right? The city has questions that don't necessarily deal with that, right? But there's still, what things do we need to do in what order to get the right outcome so that we continue to have the same quality or better life that we have here. And it's been done in other cities. So I think to me, it's like the next best step. There's so many moving pieces now that it's impossible for the staff to literally go through those iterations in your head. And the other thing that it does, not only do you make better decisions, but it helps you present to a client or to the community why some decisions weren't made. I mean, it looks like it's the right thing to do, but when we model it out, big deficit. So it gives a lot of it's more transparent with everything.
Can you think of any like real life examples of things that have happened in the city recently where you're like, I bet if we had taken this approach, we might have made a different decision. Can you think of anything like that recently?
2.
Okay, talk to me.
Water.
Okay.
Right? Our reliance on water, the drainage and storm water, we're having a problem with that. If we had had this tool 5 years ago and it was available 5 years ago, we might have been able to model what was going on, right? And we might have been able to see where we were headed and potentially be able to head it off or make changes or talk to our partners, right, about what's happening. And I will tell you that's the nice thing about this type of simulation. It's not hard to get your partners on board to help with the cost of it. And although it's very inexpensive today, it was much more expensive years ago. The Home Depots, the Lowe's, the Walmarts, they all have an active interest in all these types of levers, if you will, in the city. And they probably would be on board with actually helping us take care of it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What's the other example of something that you've seen that you think could have been maybe handled differently with this type of approach?
Well, I guess the two were, one was water, our reliance on water, the water rationing.
Right.
Why is that happening?
Right.
And then the other one is this, the whole drainage sewer system.
Oh, okay. So that was
those two
the two.
are, yeah.
I got you.
You would never do those two together.
I got you.
Right?
I understand. I thought maybe you were going to bring up as an example the patio thing back behind Tinder and the Forge and all of that, because that
could have been one.
That was a point of contention for some time. There's people kind of on both sides of that issue, people who think that, we need something like this. And of course, I would guess, I'm just guessing, I'm not trying to speak for anyone, but if you had a business there, it's an asset to you. But at the same time, that was, for the time that we were in when all of that happened, that was a fair amount of money for the city to do something like that. That's
100%. Yeah.
That was maybe a larger project for something with, perceived less return on investment somewhat. And so maybe with this approach, what you're saying is we could have, I guess, looked at it from a different perspective and modeled it out basically to see what all the potentialities were in something like that.
I think what you would find is the city had to do something back there anyway, right? So if we add a little bit more, what's the value of that to bringing people down to Celina? The nice thing about this type of technology is you can actually score and weight intellectual understanding. So, anybody who's been here for 5 years, people can say, that is just never going to work. We've tried it 100 times. Great, let's log that in there, right? And give it some score or measure to be part of the whole data system.
Gotcha.
Another one would be, we keep talking about infrastructure, and a lot of times it comes down to roads. If we look at, and I'm just hypothesizing here, we know where the developments are coming. We have all the traffic counts. We know how many people are moving in a day. I'm sure we can build some type of heat map to tell us, this is going to be a real issue. It's an issue today. It's going to be way worse, or it's not safe, or whatever that deliverable is.
Right.
But when you have the data, there's no reason why you wouldn't do it.
Very interesting. So are you then saying that bringing this experience and this kind of perspective, I guess, on how to process some of these things that the city's going to face, is that something then that you're saying you're going to bring to the table?
I'm going to bring the concept of it. I mean, I don't do it anymore.
So you're not going to be sitting up there like at the thing in the council chambers, like literally like working on your phone trying to...
In fact, can we just recognize the elephant for a second? Council doesn't do the work. All of it is done by staff. They are highly educated, right? They're not even learning on our dime. They're bringing their experience here. Council's role is to fly at 30,000 feet, be visionary, use the experience that we have, from the industries we've been in, and even from partners that we've been with. We legislate, we vote. We vote on what the staff is recommending, P&Z is recommending. That's really the big deal of what City Council does. And I think for City Council members going forward, wouldn't it be nice to have a little bit more information about what the risk versus the reward is? I think the staff does a great job. And quite frankly, I think this type of technology would elevate them. I think it would give them, I think they would be able to work the same amount of hours and get a lot more done. You can't work at this clip, at this rate for years without starting to get tired or wanting to leave. It's hard. I mean, I've been in it. I did, startups and development early in my career. I was up at 5:30 in the morning. I was the last one there. I did it for 2 or 3 years, and you're tired, really tired.
Absolutely.
You go to work and you feel like you got to put a seatbelt on. You're walking down the hallways and you see friends who are managing other areas, and you don't even have a chance to tell people, "Oh my God, you have no idea what's coming." You have to pass each other in the hall. I mean, we used to laugh about stuff like that. That's how it feels.
No, I understand. I have a different version of that going on in my own life right now with everything I have going on, but I get it. That's something I can relate to, just in a bit of a different way. But talk to me about this. So, getting back to why you decided to jump into this race right now. Obviously, there's someone in the seat that you're vying for right now. So he's the incumbent. And he's decided to run again. So what in particular led you to say, you know what? I want to do this. Is it something about what he has or hasn't done? And just for repetition here, Philip Ferguson,
right,
and all the clarity, and we speak very openly here, but Philip Ferguson is who has that seat right now. He's running again. So what in particular led you to say, you know what? I want that seat.
June 14th, 2022.
Okay. Talk to me. What's June?
Well, listen, on June 14th, 2022, Philip and Tony Griggs were sworn in, and they made a motion to remove the boards and the commissions, and everybody had 6 months of service. And so Tony was the one that actually made the motion, and Philip seconded it. They both had about 2 hours of experience. And I think that's the word I would use is reckless. When you don't have boards and commissions, getting quorum, making decisions, moving forward, that's a problem. That stops the city. And you know me, I'm a numbers person, Ron, right? So when I look at it, I go, okay, we had 50 people, 2 of them left, 7 of them actually reapplied and got on. So we have, what are we down to, 42 people that are gone? If those 42 people all had, let's just say, 5 years of experience on a board or commission, and many of them had much more than that, that's like 750 years of collective knowledge of relationships, what's going on in the city, what's coming up, what the vision is, and we reduced it to like 4? It's a dramatic drop, and that hurts the city. Okay, I don't think it's citizen friendly either, quite frankly.
To be clear for people who aren't necessarily up to speed, and I've certainly covered a lot of this, people that want to get back into some of this history and stuff in the past, it's all available on this podcast, as a matter of fact, has been a very effective tool for shedding light on stuff that, gosh, how many people wouldn't even know that had happened?
Tons.
If it wasn't for this podcast.
Right.
So I think that it's been a very valuable tool. I also disagreed completely with that approach. And of course, just like in everything, there's 2 sides to every coin, right? There's no such thing as a one-sided coin, or it's not a coin, but you've got, the people that were on the other side of that. And I'm kind of going back in my memory right now. They were saying that the reason that was necessary to wipe all the boards and commissions, to basically remove everybody from, it was everything besides Board of Adjustments,
right.
Correct?
Yeah.
Which couldn't be done on the advice of the city attorney, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Is because leading up to that, there had been people who had been maybe put on those boards without having to go through a process or something like that. And the explanation I received at the time for that was, we don't have people who want to do it. So we do sometimes have to ask someone, like maybe someone like you, Ron, you're involved in the community. You're seen it at some level as a local leader here, and we don't have anyone for a position. So everyone knows Ron. He's pretty this, he's pretty that, whatever those qualities are. Would you be willing to serve on this board? And so that's why some of those things happened. I think the side that came in and actually orchestrated the removal of all of those positions called that the good old boy system. So I guess it kind of depends. You could say both. You could say, well, it's a good old boy system. And at the same time, you could say there was no other choice. We had to ask people to serve.
True. But in this case, everybody that we removed They only had 6 months left before they were either going to reapply or leave. And it just would have been a lot more succinct if we had just let it play out.
So what do you think is the real reason behind why that happened?
Well, if you listen to what Tony said, he said, well, we just want to make sure we have the right people, qualified people. He said, during my campaign, I had a lot of people come up to me and say that they like to be on the boards and commissions and they haven't gotten on. Well, great. In 6 months, you can apply again. But I don't know. Honestly, I just don't understand it. I think it was a rookie move. I don't know any other way to put it. I think it was really reckless for the city. We are so lucky that we're not in a worse position.
So how do you come in to a position, like you said, Tony had just been sworn in, Philip Ferguson had just been sworn in, and then you said within how long did they actually do this, the motion in the second?
It was 2 hours into sitting in. If you go to the video for June 14th, 2022, I think it's like an hour and 47 minutes into the meeting, he makes this motion. I'm thinking, I don't remember his campaigning on that. And, what happened was Tony makes a motion and Philip immediately seconds it. There was like no time,
So do you believe right now sitting here that there was planning and collusion and that sort of thing that had to take place? Or do you think that was a spur of the moment, like, oh, that sounds like a great idea? Tony goes, I think I want to do this. And then Philip says, yeah, and I'll second that. Do you think it was like that? Or do you think that there might have been some foresight, some planning, at least at some level in order for that to work?
Here's what I would tell you. I sat there and went, how did he know that was even a good idea? How did he even know that could happen?
When you say he who?
Tony, because he made the motion.
Okay.
Right? And why would Philip go, okay, I second that? What made them think this was such a big problem? Because we're involved in this stuff. I didn't get into this. This is the first race I'm actually in that I wasn't necessarily asked to be in. So twice before, people have asked me to run. And I said, you know what? I don't feel like I have enough of it on me. Right? I want to be more prepared. I don't take this lightly. We have 50,000 people here. We'll have over 100 in 5 years. It's just not a decision that I take lightly. There's a lot of responsibility. And there's a lot of times when you have to tell people bad news. And I'll tell you, I probably have more experience than anybody when you're consulting for CEOs and VPs and whatever. They don't hire you to come in there and tell them how good they're doing.
Right.
They hire you to come in and tell them where the blind spot is.
Right on.
They don't necessarily like it either, but it's got to be the truth.
But it's got to be said.
Right.
It's got to be analyzed. It has to be figured out. So for you, the primary reason that you decided to get into this race is because of the fact that, of that event.
That
specifically.
Event, I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I got a little confirmation in February when I was at the city council, and the chamber was up there. And listen, I don't dislike Philip. I don't really even know Philip, okay? But when he brought up the fact that he said, I don't understand the value that the chamber brings to the city, I'm thinking, really? The chamber has a huge value to the city in retention, in helping businesses, in training. There's like a list of 10 things that chambers do for their city. And a lot of cities, they look forward to the point where they're big enough to have a chamber, right?
So for clarity, was he saying he doesn't understand? Because I didn't see it, and I wasn't there, and I haven't watched any videos. But was he referring to? Because I kind of remember hearing about what may have been one of the points of contention that evening when the chamber was actually doing that at the council meeting. But was he talking about the chamber as a whole, or what value that the chamber brings by virtue of a certain amount of money that the city council and the EDC cooperatively, if I remember right, I think it's like $50,000 or something like that, 25 from the city, 25 from EDC, if I'm remembering right, that they get to use. And was he questioning the value of that or the value of the chamber as a whole? Do you know?
I think it revolved around that question of that contract question that they have. But even in that, it's such a small amount. It's a rounding error for the city. I mean, we have a $478 million debt we have to service, and it's serviced by your property taxes, and it's serviced by business services and impact fees. We're talking about a tiny thing. The chamber and the city should be encouraged to work together. We have to find ways to do that. So, it just left me feeling like, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Okay, so it left you with the opinion, if I'm understanding you right, that maybe he wasn't as supportive of the chamber.
Right. Exactly. And if that's not the case, he should come out and say it, because I think a lot of people felt that way.
Okay. All right. I understand. So like I said, not having seen it and certainly not trying to speak for anyone at all in any of this, only offering my perspectives when they are, able to be given. But I'm curious. So now this whole thing's going on. We've got recently, I say recently, I mean, we're talking going back 3 years now, to the boards and commissions have all been replaced. The everything, there's been a shakeup and all of this stuff. This is literally the stuff that I don't like anymore. Well, let me tell you what I don't like. I think it's important that we reference and remember it. I don't think it's important that we go in pursuit of having personal vendettas and stuff, because it was all that kind of stuff that led to some of these moves, in my opinion, in the first place.
Listen, the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason.
Right on.
You asked me a question, I gave you an answer.
Absolutely.
I don't dwell on it, right?
Yep.
We are not going to fix anything going backwards.
Right. And so it's important to understand that stuff as a premise. But what we probably don't want to do is engage in the very exact same thing.
No, not at all.
Again, so maybe I always thought that instead of wiping out all the boards and commissions, if you really think that there's a problem, let each seat come up as it does, each position, and then have so much oversight, if you really believe there's a problem, that you ensure that there's no good old boy system taking place on anything moving forward.
Yeah. I would tell you right now, I think the boards are doing great.
You're answering my next question before I even got to it. Do you feel like, because of all that stuff and getting to where we're at right now, do you feel like, and I already know your answer now, do you feel like we're doing pretty good as far as our boards and commissions, our EDC, our Chamber of Commerce, our City Council in general? Have we moved to a better place?
Well, there's a lot less drama.
Right? This is so very, very true.
A lot less drama. I think it's a lot easier for people to work together. I think we have good people on the boards and commissions. There's just no way I would ever, try and wipe out 50 people. I wouldn't do that.
Doesn't sound like the best move.
Well, listen, it's just, there's so much, in this universe, when you push one way, something else has a reaction. There's a consequence to everything. And you really have to think through those when you're talking about a city of this size. When I say we have a $478 million debt, that debt is on us, Ron, right? And as the city operates as well as it does, it's taken care of. Carla does a great job budgeting. She's got a 5-year forecast. We are in good hands there. But Lord, you just don't want to pull on the air brake and have everything go to hell.
Right, absolutely. And let me give you an example. And I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but when I say we, me and my wife, we're what you'd probably call kind of smaller time investors in Celina. We're not Costco, we're not anything like that, but we've purchased quite a few properties down here with intentions of doing restaurants and Airbnbs and offices and this and that and all kinds of different things that would be, I think, very beneficial for the city, right, as we grow.
Sure.
And I was recently put in contact with someone who decided to open their business. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but they would have been a great asset for right here in Celina, Texas. They decided to go to Prosper. And as it turns out, we have exactly what they were here looking for, but we couldn't connect. And so when we were trying to figure out, I wanted to know from my side, what do I need to do different and do better in order to be in front of these people who want to come here and do some of these projects? And the guy's response was, well, we went to the EDC, but they did not yet know everyone who's doing everything in the city of Celina because they're a relatively new, whatever you want to call it, entity. Okay.
Well, listen, they're a great group of people.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not trying to knock them at all.
Let me just finish. Great group of people. I think I know every one of them. But there's a ramp-up time. There's a learning process. You know, I went through this with somebody. I do the design review committee meetings with my clients all the time. I go to the EDC with them when they want me to. And, you know, when a committee has a hard time telling somebody, I don't like what it looks like, or it's not really what we envisioned there. And my client would say, okay, help me. We're open. This isn't, you know, etched in stone. But they can't really respond because they don't know. There's a little training that needs to happen. I mean, if you're sitting on the EDC or you're even sitting on city council, you should be pretty aware of what the master plan says you can and cannot do, right? Now, I know what we can and cannot do in all the different areas because it's part of what I do, right? And I think with my experience, my business experience, and listen, I'll be the oldest sitting council member if I get on there, right? I think I can actually give people feedback and help formulate that. That's kind of what I've done in my past anyways. But because we have young boards and commissions, there's ramp-up time. There just is.
Well, I feel like, and that's exactly why I don't and did not agree with wiping those boards and commissions, because I know who was on the board before, or who was part of the EDC, I should say, and they would have known exactly what is going on, and that connection would have been made. So did the city of Celina suffer a loss? At some level, we did. Prosper gained. We lost something because... And certainly, again, not in the least tiny little bit am I putting anything on the shoulders of the EDC. You can't put in, you know, a new board like that, basically, with all new members, new leadership, new everything, and expect them to be at the same level and same place that the more tenured and experienced board was.
Right. That would be unfair.
And so I am literally living right now an example of why that was such a terrible idea. So, and I certainly understand that the other side, the people who did that, the people who decided to, you know, wipe all the boards and commissions, they had their reasons for wanting to do it, and I'll let them speak to what those things are. But I am in agreement with you. That was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
100%.
It was reckless. That's a fair word. Listen, I'm not trying to run a nasty campaign. I mean, my campaign motto is Dorothy loves Celina. There's no place like it. And I do love the city. I really understand the master plan, and I will do everything I can. I've brought 35 businesses here, and they're all working, right? They're paying taxes. People are going and getting services where they would have had to go on to Prosper. We have a huge leakage of tax dollars to Prosper still, and we will for a while, because, you know, COVID put an absolute halt on commercial development. And could you blame them? Nobody was going out.
Right.
And then it takes another, 18 to 24 months once everybody decided to go again. And we're just starting to see the fruit of that labor now. So we're behind. We are behind. And you can't really make it go much faster. And, the other unfortunate thing about what COVID did, prices for land here they're high.
Right.
And it's hard for developers to, bite off that nut, if you will. So, some of the things that I'm trying to do is bring in joint ventures between landowners who really don't want to sell and developers who actually want to build a building, because they will get out of it together in 7 to 5 years way better than if one sells the land and one builds a building.
So talk to me about all of this stuff. Like, you've got this fantastic experience and you want to bring that all to council. And we're going to go back just in a minute, because I do want to kind of follow up on some of that other stuff. But it kind of brings up a question. So do you foresee, because of what you do, all of this stuff that gives you this experience, but at the same time, does that also create conflicts? Do you foresee yourself having to recuse yourself when certain things come before the city council?
No, I don't get paid by the city. I mean, I get paid by either a landlord. I do a lot of leasing, a ton of leasing here. I get paid by a seller. I don't get paid by the city at all. So
you wouldn't, like, for example, if, let's say, I had a project coming in and it might benefit your real estate business, depending on whether or not the city approves or, offers whatever incentives or does whatever, like works in the positive towards my project, that wouldn't create a conflict.
No, I don't understand. You have to explain that to me like I'm a 2-year-old. I'm sorry. It's just, listen, I've heard people say, oh, you're going to make more money because you're on council and the growth of the city. And I'm like, Ron, you are going to make more money. So is Andy Hopkins. So's everybody. The city is growing. I don't get paid by the city.
Yeah, I'm looking for cases where it will benefit. I'm asking if you foresee any cases where being in real estate, commercial real estate in this town could help you because you would have, say, more spaces to lease if this project gets approved, or the developer comes in asking for some incentives, tax incentives. We want the city to build these streets and these roads, then we'll put the buildings up and we'll have, 40 new retail spaces available in this little center that we're doing on this intersection if we can get this done. And so the city staff does their stuff. They make their recommendations. Do you think, like, okay, I might be one of the commercial agents trying to lease this, so I really hope it does go up? Do you need to recuse yourself from voting on something like that, since you might be involved in that? Yeah, or you might not, but would there ever be a conflict like that in your mind?
Well, first of all, I'm laughing over here, giggling, because that's not how the process works. I mean, on a smaller developer, first of all, I'm not doing Walmart. I'm not doing Lowe's, and that's Matthew Karen at Rex Real Estate, and he does a great job. They're never going to reach out to me. I'm too tiny. But the process of buying and developing land starts with buying the land, going through the design review process with the committee, and that's where you understand what the sacred cows are of the city. Now, these are the things that are going to be done, right? And smaller developers aren't really giving anything. They're not dog trading like that. That's just not how it works. They're basically being told what their impact fees are, right? And they can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to go through the permitting process. So if I owned the land, there would probably be a conflict of interest. But
I'd say that'd be a conflict.
I don't own any land, right?
But it wouldn't sway you one way or the other. Like, you're still going to be able to, and we would hope this of everybody, that you're still going to be able to sit there and say, I really don't feel like this is the best thing for the city. And I understand that the city council doesn't get to sit there and necessarily say, oh, we'll allow this to be a bakery, but we're not going to allow this or whatever. But just for the sake of argument, things come before the council. Sometimes somebody's going to come in and want like an SUP, some sort of a variance or something like that. And
how does the process work?
Well, that's a good question, and probably a scope deeper than what we have time for.
But that answers your question.
Then tell me.
So the process is, somebody's going to come in. If it's an SUP, they're going to go through the SUP process, and P&Z is going to make a recommendation, and the staff is going to make a recommendation. On all of these things, it's P&Z and staff making recommendations, whether it's good or not, okay? Then we vote on it, and sometimes they have some conversation about it. I think, the biggest one was my swim buddy over on Malone, right? There's a tract of houses there that don't have the city entitlement, and I would tell you that the city missed it. They should all be entitled as commercial because of what's behind them. she was unable to get the council to agree with her, and the neighbors made their argument. And I'll be honest with you, I probably would have voted with her until I actually went and sat at the school there during the pickup line at 3:00. And I went, oh, this would have been the worst idea. Worst idea. Sometimes you have to go out there and see it for yourself. So I needed another point of data to wrap my head around, and that's what I did. You just have to sit there one afternoon, Ron.
I understand, but back to the question specifically. So the staff...
The answer is the city council votes based on the recommendations, how they feel about the recommendations.
Right, but it is still your vote.
It still is my vote. But I would highly listen.
Could you not, and that's where I was going. I like to think that no matter who it is or how their personal business or, maybe their personal tastes, like, hey, I really, really, really like vintage cars. Let's just make an example. So, there's a guy who wants to come in and he wants to put in a shop right here. And most of me says this isn't the best place or whatever for a shop. Okay. A car shop. But I really like vintage cars. So I'm going to say yes, because I like vintage cars. Like, I like to think that people are going to put the needs and the interests of the city, the citizenry, ahead of their own stuff. So what I'm saying to you is you'll always be able to say, yeah, that might be awesome to have 50 more retail spaces to lease or whatever, but in my heart of hearts, that's not the right thing for the city. So I can't support that. Kind of like the swim buddy thing.
In a sense, I've already done that. So I've brought 35 businesses now. I've probably told 10, it's not the right offer here. This is a horrible space for you. You're not going to make it, right? You're not having enough funding. Could I have written a lease for those people and got them in there? Absolutely. Did I? No way. I don't want that on my conscience.
Right.
So I can tell you that if it's good for the city, if it's good for the citizens, then I'll vote for it. But if it's not, even if I'm involved, it's not about money. I'm too old to worry about that at this point in my life. Right?
I'm still trying to get there.
Good Lord. So. I mean, you'd have to have some evidence in my life that I'm in it for the money. And if I live in a 1,261 square foot house, okay? I wear the same shoes just about every day, just a different color. I'm in jeans. Now I don't see it. You'd have to see the evidence.
Yep, I understand. So getting back to some of that other stuff, some of that, what we have in this city in the past, in the more recent past, I have to preface this by saying this stuff has happened here. I've been here for 32 years this year. If you go back into the early 90s, late 90s, and then the early 2000s, there's always been political nonsense in Celina, Texas. It's just a fact. Mm-hmm. Most of the people who were involved in those things, and they seem so big and such a great big deal at the time and all this stuff, they're all gone. So they've either passed away, moved, gotten to an age where they just don't do it anymore. But all of those people, for the most part, are all gone now. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about even pre-Corbett Howard days. So that's going way on back.
Been here a long time.
Been here for a minute. And so I think that stuff, it's inherent and it's not exclusive to Celina. We don't have some special, thing that makes us worse or better than anyone else with regards to those problems. It's always been here. It's not something new. So when I talk about the more recent problems, that's with the understanding that we've always had issues. Yep. There's always been stuff, and there probably always will be some level of that. But I do feel like, personally, we're doing better.
I do too.
I think for whatever it is, whatever the magic is, I think we've done better. So I'm going to ask you the same thing that I've asked. I asked Philip Ferguson this, and I asked Brandon Grumbles this. I'm going to ask you the same thing. Are you willing to commit right now, right here on this show, in front of all of the people who are either watching or listening? We hope they can do both.
Right.
Even though we had a camera failure on Brandon's podcast. are you willing to commit to not engaging or getting down in the weeds with all of that old vendetta and this group versus that group and all that stuff? Would you agree not to participate in that right now?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason. It's all past. Water under the bridge. Can't change it. Nobody's coming back. We got to move forward. We have the best years ahead of us.
I have had conversations with people, and I know that that's still out there. And that's why I'm saying this, because as much as I was involved in it, as much as I stood against all of that stuff, I mean, like a frontline torch-bearing person, anti all of that stuff that was going on, the wiping of the boards and the city manager and doing all of those things, at a certain point, we have to realize that if we're truly in this for the city of Celina, that we're not going to keep throwing rocks in a war that's past.
Not throwing rocks. You asked me a question, I gave you an answer.
It's done.
It's over.
Yep. And it doesn't serve anyone anymore to continue that. And so my latest thing is, and there's kind of two factions in town. And I'm disliked by people in both. And I think that means that's good, because that means that I'm for Celina and not for either one of them. Because I think if you're for one of them, you have to question whether or not you truly have the high level of commitment to the city that you should probably have to do what all of us do. And I'm not on city council, I'm not any of that, but I still care dearly about this city. So how do you think moving forward, let's just say that you don't win. Let's say Philip wins. Does that mean you unplug? Are you still going to stay involved? What does that look like for you moving forward?
Listen, I think I'll always stay involved. I mean, ask my husband. It's like, I've always got to have a project. Yeah,
just can't help it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't hold back a good idea. I think I have a really good relationship with the city manager. I like Robert. I think he's doing a great job. I mean, he really came in and a disruptive time. He's done a fabulous job. I'm not sure I would have wanted to do that. You know what I mean?
That is a difficult thing. It's like, hey, we just threw a few hand grenades back and forth, and everything's really a mess. But hey, you want to come on in and do this job?
But I'm still doing what I do, and I'll do that probably for the next 10 years, and maybe then I'll throttle back a bit. But I love the city. I want to see it successful. I think we can be the best little big city in North Dallas. And that's my goal. But we all have to do it. It's not something I can do.
Right.
This is a together thing.
Absolutely.
If that's what you want, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a small town. I was there for 25 years. And I still go back there every year for my vacation. And people are like, what do you mean you go home? Well, I'm in the same home I grew up in, the same bedroom I slept in.
Wow.
And I go there because it's so peaceful.
Right.
And I want my kids to feel that way about Celina.
Nice.
Because I'm leaving here feet first.
Right.
So that's the heart and soul. And you can't expect the city to do it on its own. We all have to contribute. And if I can get on city council and I can contribute and make some of those tough decisions, I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, one of the things that the city is facing right now that has a little less to do with actual city council, but and I've had to ask. I asked when Mayor Tubbs was on, I asked him this question, and I said, "Can you answer this?" And he goes, "I don't know." And so he didn't specifically answer it. He just kind of, he answered it the way he could.
Right, sure.
Where he felt like he could. And then I asked the same thing of Brandon, and he was like, "I'm not real sure if I can either." He did the same. Philip Ferguson did the same. You are in a unique position in the sense that you can answer this question.
Okay.
You're not actually in office.
Right.
So the school district right now has a big, with that word billion on there.
Isn't it 2.3?
Yeah.
It's
not
big.
in the millions this time. And so do you support that or not?
Well, I'll tell you what. So going back to my date ahead, we've got 30 people moving here a day, 360 a week. Or a month. And I've asked people who have children who are in some of the portables we have now, what's it like? They don't like it. They have to, go to the bathroom. They have to leave the pod, whether it's raining or hailing. I am in support of it because I don't know an alternative to it, really. I just can't imagine being a residential agent, which I don't sell residential, right? I cannot imagine taking people on a tour of an area with all these beautiful schools in pods all over the place. What does that say? I mean, those pods break the safety standards of any school, period, right? If you had an active issue going on, they would know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, it's a big number. Apparently, they've actually, built in what they anticipate the tax value being, so it's not supposed to affect our property taxes. And if somebody can give me a better alternative, I'll listen to it. But right now, nobody can. And I think our kids' safety and their education is critical. It will decide whether or not they want to come home.
Right on. And you'll be voting for it.
I will be voting for it.
Right on. Very good. And so we've talked all about all this political stuff, and it's sticky, it's ugly, it's nasty, it's not much fun. However, it's all with the intent of everything getting better. Mm-hmm. So there's a cause, there's a reason, there's a why behind the what. The what's not always so pretty and fun, but the why can be honorable, it can be positive, it can be all of that stuff. And I believe that's, obviously we all feel that way or we wouldn't be here, right?
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about Dorothy Allan herself.
Okay.
Let's talk about you personally. So obviously you said you're not from here, you're not from Celina, you're not from Texas.
Right.
Where are you from?
I'm from Cedarburg, Wisconsin.
From Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I would tell you, if you want to see where I grew up, go to YouTube and type in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, or visit Cedarburg, Wisconsin. There's a number of people that have made videos. I think you'll understand why I have the vision I have for the downtown.
Gotcha. That's very, very awesome. And if I can talk just a little bit, I share some commonality with your husband. Mm-hmm. He's retired law enforcement.
Yes, he is.
I got out of law enforcement some time back.
Yep.
So very, very honorable job. So was he a police officer here or back home?
He was a Royal Canadian Mountie policeman.
Really?
RCMP, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
very, very cool.
Yeah.
So I don't even know that if I did know that, then wow again.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The city much bigger. I mean, it was 125,000 when he was there. So, listen, I think people like yourself, Dan, you deal with the worst 5% of the population.
Absolutely.
Day in and day out. And he did, everything from the regular cop beat to being in undercover, narcotics. I mean, he put himself on the line, and I can't even listen to the stories. They're hard.
Yep.
It's tough.
Absolutely. And that's why I always say God bless him for doing that job, because I understand what that's like. And I was definitely in a lot of that stuff myself. I did a big portion of my career in drug interdiction and narcotics. So yeah, just, not the best part of our world, but a necessary part. And so talking about Celina now, and I always have to preface this by saying, if I ask you, what's your favorite color, and you say, oh, blue is my favorite color, that doesn't mean you hate the others. It just means that's the one that stands out the most. So when I ask you this, everybody always wants to know, what's your favorite place to eat, or what's one of, I've learned to ask this better, what's one of your favorite places to eat in Celina?
Oh, man, I tell you, because I eat at all of them. And I do, literally.
In case you couldn't tell, I do too.
Yeah. So, listen, it depends on what time of day it is. And actually depends on what day it is.
Right.
Because there's a lot of activities going on down here. I will tell you that I am a fan of Heyday.
Okay, good.
For their beverages.
Right.
I love their food too, but they have a great smoked old fashioned. And
nice.
I just can't be beat anywhere on the square, in my opinion. I love to have lunch at Toasted Walnut.
Okay.
The Forge has a great hamburger.
Nice.
Boy, I've done them all. The Silos has been an incredible experience.
Right. Isn't that amazing over there?
Yeah, he's put his heart and soul into it. He's a
Been
good
very,
man.
very nice. Yep.
Yeah. So, I love to go to the Penguin for what was that, Thursday nights when they have the not karaoke.
The trivia?
Trivia.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't really participate in the trivia. It's all entertainment and movies.
Right.
I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
I don't go to movies. So
That's
I
like
don't
me.
get anything
I
right.
would rather sit there and watch their trivia thing rather than participate because of the same reason.
Right.
People like you and I don't have a whole lot of time for movies and TV.
No.
People will always say to me, hey, have you watched this? Like Yellowstone's one. I think Yellowstone's probably amazing. I love Kevin Costner and all that. Can't tell you that I've ever watched an episode, and that's not awesome, but we're busy.
Right.
We're busy.
Well,
so
I'd rather read.
Yeah.
I'm a learner. I love to learn. So anything, I listen to a lot of podcasts because
there
of
you
it.
go. There you
So,
go.
yeah.
And now you're going to be on one.
Right. But listen, when I used to travel, I've been around the world 7 times, right? And I can't tell you any time that I actually turned the TV on in a hotel room.
Yeah. Sounds like me.
Rather learn.
Yep. If the TV's on, it's because someone else turned it on in my world.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely not because I did it. But if you were to allow me to go out to your car right now and crank it up, I'm sitting in the seat. What radio station or what am I going to hear coming out of the speakers?
Nothing.
It's off.
It's off. I'm probably one of the few people I will drive for hours without any sound.
You just like the silence.
It's time to think.
I like it. I like it. That's
I'm
awesome.
not even sure why I have a radio in my car.
Okay, there's where we divert.
Yeah.
There's where I have to have that. I'm obviously very into music, very into radio stuff, very much into that. So yeah, my life centers around that stuff. But if you were going to turn it on, what might you turn it on to? Country, rock, talk radio? What do you think?
I like country.
Okay.
I like the Mercy Me. It's not necessarily gospel, but Christian pop music.
Contemporary Christian. Yeah.
Yep, contemporary Christian. I probably will have at least 2 or 3 stations where it's talk radio.
Nice.
Not necessarily news.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I used to have Sirius in the car, and that was good.
Yeah.
Because I could get a lot of different talk radio.
Sure. Yeah, you can kind of find what you like
Right.
and get a whole lot of that if you want it.
Right.
So
and the decade, 80s, 90s,
Right.
whatever. So
right. So when you were growing up in school, so you went to high school in Wisconsin, is that right?
I grew up in the same house.
Which group, and I hate that now it's so like stigmatized to like be in a group or whatever, but I'm still old school, so I still kind of want to know, like, what group would it have been? Like the athletes? Would it have been like, the rock and roll people, like the country? We called them goat ropers, but what group would you more identify with back in your high school days?
Well, I was an athlete, but I was a floater.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
So you could kind of relate to.
I got along with everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, very non-judgmental.
Friends in all the groups.
Friends in all the groups.
Yeah.
But I had a passion for basketball and volleyball.
Right.
And my brother was a very good player, and he taught me how to play. And I nearly went to state. It was all county, all Milwaukee, all-star, blah blah blah. So
nice.
That was my growing up.
Very, very good.
I'm very competitive. Like my son has this uber competitiveness, and he got it from my husband. He got it from me. So if he doesn't have anybody to play against, plays against himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He just can't not be competitive.
Wow. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've got all this campaign stuff going on. I'm assuming you have probably a Facebook page committed to this and stuff like that. What do you want to share with everybody as far as how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I have a Facebook page. It's Dorothy for Celina City Council Place 1. I also have a website, which is dorothyforcelina.com.
Is it FOR or the number 4?
It's FOR.
Okay.
Just spell it out. So I'm doing some videos under the council lights, just because I don't really want people seeing the inside of my tiny little house.
Hey, that works.
Right. But, I'm going to try and do something weekly. Try not to do too long. I know people's attention span is really tiny, but it'll either be on my website, it'll be uploaded onto YouTube, and it'll be on Facebook as well. But listen, I'm an open book. People can call me. They can text me.
Is there a phone number or an email or something you want to share?
Yeah, my phone number is 469-469-0939. It's a great, poker number, quite frankly. Or you can reach me at Dorothy. Dorothy at I'm trying to think what my Gmail is. dorothyforcelina@gmail.com.
It's spelled out again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
dorothyforcelina@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get too many emails there. So.
Yeah. I mean, but somebody's going to want to reach you at some point.
I think they should.
At least
really
this
do.
way.
Yeah.
They've got a couple different methods they can find you.
Yep. Listen, Ron, I've talked to over 300 people at this point. I'm cold calling people. I mean, that's the activity.
You're probably going to hit about 5,000 to 6,000 people by virtue of doing this right here. So
awesome. Please reach out. I've got the time. I'll make the time.
That's right. And you're around a lot. You're at all the events almost, and so you're very available.
Yeah. Listen, I think people should take voting seriously. I wouldn't vote for somebody just because I knew them or I liked them. I really want to know what they stand for, that they are willing to represent me not themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's what this role is about.
Right.
So
I saw earlier, I got a text from a friend of mine who tagged me or the Best of Celina or something like that. Anyhow, that they were asking for input on the candidates. And they said, because right now I don't know. And so I'm going to be forced to vote for whose sign I like best.
Oh, no.
I feel bad for the person because I guess they haven't been able to access the information that they want yet, but we should not really vote like that.
No.
I don't think.
And I would say this, if somebody wants to talk to me, text me first. Just give me a heads up because, we're busy. Our phones are always ringing. And I'll get back to you, or I'll say I'm available now, or give me 10 minutes, whatever the case may be. But I can always make time. They can meet me at Heyday at the end of the day.
Go get that smoky whatever.
That smoked old fashioned. Yeah. It's just kind of where I go, and I've got my phone, and I just finish my day out.
Right.
And I work with those guys a lot too. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So last question, and you've probably heard this asked 1,000 times, but that doesn't change the fact that your answer is uniquely yours. Mm-hmm. Uniquely. Did I say that right? Uniquely?
Yeah, I think so.
That's uniquely yours. And that is, would you, you're going to think this is so silly, and it is, but it's meant to be. Would you rather fight 100?
No.
You already know, don't you?
No, but I know these questions that you ask.
Well, we just can't end on a serious note. So would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses? Okay, think about that. Mm-hmm. Ducks. I have ducks at my house.
Yeah.
They're about that big.
Ankle biters.
Yeah, 100 of them, but they're horses. Okay,
right.
Little horses, like little mini dogs, or one horse-sized. And I've got a Clydesdale at home, so I think Budweiser beer, right. Clydesdale-sized duck. You have to either fight the 100 little horses or the one giant duck. Which does Dorothy Allan choose to fight?
You know what? I'm hooked on miniatures. I've been hooked on them all my life.
Right.
So if I could see 100 tiny horses all day long, that would just
you wouldn't even want to fight them. You just want to sit there and play with them and
try to rescue them or something. But yeah, oh gosh,
we can't do that because then you're going to be giving them to me.
Yeah, exactly.
For my ranch, and I'm going to have and I don't even know how to take care of a mini little horse. That's little.
Yeah,
but that'd be awesome.
It's like a schnauzer for crying out loud.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that guys is Dorothy Allan.